Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boomer Buzz channel, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and today we are having the discussion that will never stop. The Chicago Bears and the quarterback situation in Justin Fields. And I do mean never stop, no matter what happens going forward. I do think that people will always talk about and debate Justin Fields. So, anyway, I would say a lot's going on, but a lot hasn't really gone on. Nothing's really changed. You know, we still stay the course. But I was just thinking a lot about Justin Fields. Obviously, as I said before, this conversation is going to heat up more once we get to the end of the season, and we are one game closer to the end of the season. And I think with it being a loss, especially in the way that it was lost, is definitely more of a conversation. Now, let me say this real quick. I forgot where I went, but I left somewhere at the end of the game to go make a run before the new games, and I must have missed the last Hail Mary. I saw the first one, or maybe that was halftime. I don't know. I thought I saw the end of the game, but apparently I didn't see this like the literal last play of the game. And so I watched that today because I kept hearing a Mooney, and I was like, what are people talking about? So I saw that play. That's utterly ridiculous. This had nothing to do with what I was talking about yesterday, obviously, because I didn't know it happened. But I'm guessing that adds on to the discussion about Mooney. If anyone's trying to use that as evidence, like the clickbait headlines, he dropped the game-winning Hail Mary, that is such clickbait. That's so misleading. And on top of that, like I said, if anybody's trying to use that as like ammo against Mooney as a receiver, that is absolutely ridiculous. I don't even know if I need to explain or justify that more. That's just a ridiculous concept. So anyway, that out the way. Justin Fields, let's talk about it. There's a lot of discussion going on. I think DJ Moore's comments added more to it, and everybody and their mama wrote an article about that, but whatever. I mean, what is he supposed to say? What is he supposed to be like? Yeah, man, I can't wait till we get one of them other quarterbacks in here. Like, I don't understand why this stuff becomes news. Like, that you're going to do the PR thing. That's just going to happen. But none of that really matters. What really matters to me, and why I'm bringing this up, is just that I've been thinking more about, been thinking ahead, because playoffs or not, we're still got a decision to make. The article I guess I didn't talk about it on here, but the article came out last week about the discussion with the anonymous GMs, or obviously they're anonymous, but with 7 GMs in the league. And it's funny how many Bears fans I saw online talking about how they don't believe the article because the GMs are trying to control the narrative or blah, blah, blah. As if the GMs would affect any decision being made by Ryan Poles. I mean, it could be a different GM. But still, you really think they're sitting there like, oh man, these anonymous GMs said that they feel this way, so we gotta change our thought? No, none of that's going to matter. None of that's going to matter. So that is one part of the conversation that I kind of ignore. But the GMs talking about it is interesting. But again, I don't think that really affects Ryan Poles or the decision makers. But it does give you an idea of kind of how the league thinks about it, in which they all basically said, yeah, I would trade Justin Fields. And most of them didn't think Justin Fields wouldn't be there. And then I was reading another beat reporter for the Bears, and he basically was saying that from what he's heard, that's what they're leaning towards. Nothing's concrete, but they're leaning towards moving on from Justin Fields. And then on top of that, he was saying that the word around the league from talent evaluators is that it's not even a question. It's a no-brainer to trade Justin Fields and get Caleb Williams. So as I said before, I have not watched Caleb Williams. It'll be coming up soon, but I haven't watched Caleb Williams. And honestly, to be honest, what I saw of him last year when I was evaluating some Addison and some other people on that offense, wasn't super impressed by it. But again, we'll get to the tape when we get to the tape. So none of this is about Caleb Williams, to be quite honest with you. I'm going to reference like the quarterback class, but I haven't watched any of them, so don't feel like this is just if we're taking that to be fact that these are great prospects type thing. We're going to go with the hypothetical, and that's really it. So for me, I was sitting here today. Obviously, the tough loss yesterday. There's a lot of conversation to be had about it, but whatever. But as I've said before, and I've been pretty consistent, yesterday didn't show me nothing new about Justin Fields. Justin Fields is who he is. Do I think there's a reality where you could be effective with Justin Fields? Absolutely. Just look at Lamar Jackson and what the Ravens are doing. Now, does it take a lot to get to that point? Yes. I mean, the Ravens have had one of the best O-lines probably throughout Lamar's career. Obviously, the defense has bounced back, and they have been really one of the top tier units over this past 5 to 7 years as well. Even though they had the down years, like I said, they're back this year. I wouldn't say mostly, but a lot of thanks to Roquan Smith. Thank you, Bears, for giving him up. And so there's a lot going on that goes into it. So being effective and being a contender, yes. Do I think that that's a high possibility we'll get there? I don't think it's a high possibility. Do I think it'll ever be a point where you're winning games because of Justin? Not really. I mean, and look, this is year 4, but really 3rd year of starting. So he has more time to grow and all that. I'm not saying his career's over. I wouldn't even say he's not a starter, but as far as what you're looking for him to be, which at this point, almost every team is looking for that, because there used to be a time where teams commit to certain styles. Now everybody pretty much wants to be quarterback driven. We want a quarterback that can go out there and do it all for us, make everybody look good. Obviously those are rare, but that's what everybody's gunning for. So if that's the type of team you want to get to, I don't see Justin Fields being that. And there are a lot of defenders of Justin Fields. I don't get it. I've said before, I don't get the hardcore defenders I don't get the hardcore fans on either side for Justin Fields or against Justin Fields, and to the point where they will discredit any and everybody just to protect Fields. And then there's other people that will rip Justin Fields for every single thing as if it's all his fault. So I don't get those, but they are out there. So that's fine. People will hear this and say, well, you've been a hater. I don't care. That's not worth anything to me. I'm telling you what I think and what I see. And we've been watching it on film. We've been watching it live for years now. The man, especially this year, where you cannot tell me it's the same. Number one, our schedule, as I said many times, wasn't that super hard. But even on top of that, there's improvement all over the offense. And so he's had plenty of opportunities to show that he can be effective in those moments. I'm not even saying consistent. I'm just mean you can be effective in these key moments, and nothing is not changed. Nothing's changed. I see people saying he's improved. Like, you want to look at the numbers and stuff. Okay, that's fine, but it ain't no different. This is what, and I hopefully I've been pretty clear about this. This is where a lot of people get twisted up, especially in the media, because they want to. Some people just want to look at stats, and that's all they look at to justify things. A lot of people mix up stats and attributes and try to go back and forth between the two to justify things. Now, for me, when we're really talking about evaluating players and stuff, that 100% goes to attributes. And so you look at his attributes, like bump what the numbers say. You look at it. The man reading coverage does not have anticipatory skills. He doesn't even throw with anticipation. He has to wait to see it open. His pocket presence is not great. Yes, he's probably has probably some of the best escapability from raw physical tools, but his pocket presence isn't good. His overall mechanics aren't good, and none of that has changed. It is what it is. You give him more time in the pocket. You give some receivers that are going to go up and win balls for him. Of course, he's going to look better, but that doesn't mean he's better. And so, the idea that yes, obviously you got to have talent to support the quarterback. I've been saying that forever. And last year was such a disservice and it was atrocious. But this year, you can't pull that card again. And then people tried to say, well, the defense is screwing us over early in the year. And obviously, I didn't agree with that. And now we sit here, the defense is far from blame with the way the games have been going. And so, yes, then there's a conversation about play call and all that. But at the end of the day, what I've come to feel is that I would move on from Justin Fields. And this is like I said, independent of this season, the rest of the season, because I still, like I said, we win our games, we keep going. There's a chance we get in the playoffs. But even if we did, I would move on. This is independent of the articles and kind of what the industry is saying, that everybody thinks it's a done deal that they're moving on from. Even if that was the case and I didn't agree, I would say. But I tend to agree. And I will say one point got me kind of convinced that I did read in the article. And I think it was a quote. I want to say it was a quote from a GM, one of the anonymous GMs. And it was something along the lines of nobody wants to be responsible for nobody wants to be responsible for having to fix somebody else's pick. Or basically, nobody wants to bet their career on somebody else's pick. Now, on its surface, and I wouldn't even say on the surface, it is very much an ego thing. But at the same time, it's a real reality. It is based in ego, but it's a real reality in any job, in any real situation. Someone that has a rare opportunity, you want to go down your own way. Now, you know me. The GM being the head honcho is dumb to me. I don't like teams that structure it like that. They should be under the head coach, in my opinion, or at least equal. But for whatever you want to call it, whether it's Eberflus in polls or just polls, the person making that decision, they want to go down with their guy. And I can understand that, and I can't disagree with that. So from that standpoint, I 100% get why you probably would say, yeah, we're going to take a crack at it. I mean, we already passed on it once, so we're going to take a crack at it this time. I get that. Now, from a fan standpoint of just like, I mean, because most of us would say, yeah, if I was the GM, put myself in their shoes. So that was me doing that. If I'm the GM, yeah, I want to take a crack on my own guy too. I get it. But now from a fan standpoint, I still come to the same conclusion just because you know what Justin Fields is. not only with this particular team, because no team is the same year to year, but the organization, the city, the vibes, all of that. I just think you know what Justin Fields is. And to be honest, a lot of me wants to see him get an opportunity somewhere else that's better. And so, or at least better fit for him. And so I part that is part of it, but for the team, and this is different than what I've said since we started this conversation. As I sit here today, my thought would be let's get one of these quarterbacks and then we continue to go, because the question becomes, do you want to get a new quarterback or do you want to build on what you have, loading it up? Now, yes, I acknowledge trading the number one pick, that's a whole lot more ammo. We don't know what that is. That could be future first round picks. That could be 3 picks in this draft. We don't really know what it is, but it's more ammo. So yes, I get that. That we don't know what that deal is that's on the table as we sit here today. But the thing is that I think people are glossing over is you have 2 top 10 picks potentially. Because to be honest, even if we snuck into the playoffs, our pick is going to be in the top 20. So, I mean, or the top 25, I should say. It's going to be because of our record. It's still going to be pretty decent. But more than likely, we don't sneak to the playoffs. You're talking about a top 10 pick. So, for me, this situation isn't apples to apples where you're like, it's not even apples to last year where you're like, okay, well, I guess technically it kind of is. Never mind, I take that back because we did swap picks and we're still in the top 10. But still, this isn't a normal situation. And the fact that we got it twice is crazy, because if we didn't have a pick, or if I should say, if this was just our pick and we were like, or we had one pick, whatever, and we were like, hey, do we want to take a quarterback and then trade Justin, see what we can get, and then, that's it, that'd be one thing. But you can get a pick, or you could get the quarterback, you could see what you could get for Justin, and then on top of that, you still potentially picking in the top 10. So it's not just, hey, we got this quarterback, we're going to roll the dice. No, let's just say we didn't have the number 1 overall pick and we had our pick and it was top 10 and we got a receiver. I don't think we need to get Marvin Harrison, but that's what everybody wants to talk about. Let's say you got Marvin Harrison. Let's say we got a tackle or DN or whatever it might be. We got another player to come in here and add to what we got going. That's a good thing. Now you magically have the first overall pick. So really it's a bonus. It is a bonus at the end of the day. That's the way I feel about it, is that you can get this quarterback and you're not missing out on the opportunity to take a shot at a top 10 player. You could do both. And so, yes, you still building this roster. It's not like, oh, Justin Fields we got to rip it down. You can still build this roster. You can still build towards something, because, yeah, my thought was, what's the point of bringing a quarterback into the same issues? But for me, the other part of this is I would move on from this coaching staff. Now, this is where the caveat has to come in. You would have to, in my opinion, get a veteran head coach that can handle this job. And so what that means is you got to be able to come in as a coach, find out what's working on this defense and who's doing well and who wants to stay. And you get some of those key people to stay. And then you bring in somebody where you could pretty much keep this system somewhat similar. And at the end of the day, the defensive systems aren't super important. But still, you want some type of continuity. You don't want to ruin momentum. And so you need somebody that's a good enough coach to recognize that stuff and not have the ego to tear it all down. Offensive wise, you could tear that all down. You could tear that down. Obviously, with a different quarterback, you would be reimagining things anyway. So let's just say you moved on from Justin Fields, you got this quarterback, and now you brought the whole coaching staff to run it back. That doesn't really fit well to me because you know what I mean. First of all, we haven't been effective, but then also on top of that, with a new quarterback, you starting over anyway to a certain extent. So you might as well bring in a new offensive staff too. But I mean, really, it comes down to me that Eberflus is just not a head coach. I've been saying that all year. People acting shocked that he could coach a defense is silly. Obviously, he could do that. But I've said it so many times. Being a coordinator is not the same thing as being a head coach. And so while I know he knows football, while I know he can coordinate a defense, while I know he can call defensive plays, from what I've seen, he just does not have the structure and the leadership that inspires this team, inspires these players. Because besides the people being undisciplined, the coaching staff just hasn't been held accountable the right way to make sure that things are put in place. And no one's giving credit to Getsy, but I give Getsy credit for improving throughout the year. Like I said, I think a big part of that was Tyler Bagent coming in and taking the handcuffs off of Getsy. And so we were able to implement some things that we still kind of do. But either way, I don't think, a lot of people have given credit to Getsy for that. So I'll give him that credit, but overall, I just don't think Eberflus has what it takes to run the operation. It's a different ball game than being a coordinator. It just is. So there's that. So what I would say, because, the conversation is, do we tear it down or do we run it back? I think you could do a bit of both. The roster's good. You could add to the roster and have a lot of that momentum. Like I said, as best you can by keeping certain parts the same. Have that momentum going into next year and still roll. But it would take a coach. Now, you think about potentially a Mike Tomlin being on the block. You think about potentially Mike Vrabel. I've been very vocal. I think he's the guy. You think about a Bill Belichick. That's not a coach I would want, but you think about a Bill Belichick. I don't know if the Ravens have a collapse or one playoff game and out. Then maybe a Harbaugh becomes available. I'm not so big on the other Harbaugh, but whatever. So yes, it would take a good coach out there, a good situation. Like Sean Payton's don't come available often. It would take, a specific situation, but that's kind of where I'm leaning towards, man, honestly, because and it's tough because Justin Field very clearly has physical abilities, and that's what makes it hard for people. And it makes it hard because he makes some dazzling plays. I mean, I think you got guys like Jamarcus Russell. You got a lot of guys, Carson Wentz. I mean, it's a long list of quarterbacks that had very clear physical abilities, but people still realize that, hey, yeah, they're not it. I think Justin makes some dazzling plays. It makes it harder for people to be like, well, he could do that. He must be a good quarterback. And part of that is the whole Lamar, again, him and Lamar tie at this point. It's the whole Lamar argument that's been introduced. Oh, you don't have to play quarterback this type of way. Yes, you do. But there's so many fans that still believe that. They still believe you could be some type of different quarterback. And so they're looking at Fields like, yeah, he doesn't have to, we can excuse the issues and deficiencies in this area because he can do these things. No, there's only one way to be an effective quarterback. There's only one way. There's certain parts that you have to be good at to be an effective quarterback. And I think it's pretty clear he's not going to be that in Chicago. Now, one thing that I have to say, lastly, that really grinds my gears is one of the arguments, and I seen it in articles, not just fans, I'm talking about articles, journalists, people who do this for a living saying this. The big fear is you don't want Justin Fields to go to another team and become a star. Why not? That is so stupid to me. And honestly, that is like a microcosm of just the entire conversations about football and why it's so dumb. If Justin Fields went to another team, I don't care what team it is, but I'm going to just throw a team out there. Say he went to San Fran. Say he went to Dallas. Say he went to even the Falcons. Whatever it is. If he went to another team and played well, then why does that matter about our team? We aren't that team. What part am I missing that people don't get about football? It is not an individual sport. It's not. It ain't like, well, Justin Fields got here, he just figured it out. No. We see this all the time. Even Baker Mayfield, perfect example. Baker Mayfield doing really good things. I think he's been an absolute B of a quarterback this year. And so now it's like, well, see, Baker was always this, or we knew that Baker was this. And yes, there are certain parts that are just who he is, but we don't think the fact that he got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin don't have something to do with it. We don't think that he's playing with a lot of people who won a Super Bowl didn't have something to do with it. Like, what are we talking about? Baker Mayfield went to the Panthers. If Baker is just Baker and he just walks in and he's Baker, then when he walks into the Panthers, it would have been a different story. It wasn't good. Bryce Young is with the Panthers. It's not good. I don't know. Maybe that team isn't good. What are we talking about? But Baker goes to the Bucks, and it's like, Baker's always there. He just walked in and he's Baker. No, you went to a team that has the situation that works for you. If Fields gets up and goes to another team and he plays well, I am saying 95% probability. I bet this month's rent on it. I bet my car on it. It would be because he has a better situation. Do I think Justin Fields is walking to the Panthers today as the current team and giving you a different product than Bryce? No. Do I think he's walking onto the Giants and giving you a different product? No. So the notion that we need to consider him becoming a star elsewhere, like this pre-baked narrative that, it was the Bears. Did you know? I don't know if y'all know this. Someone got benched today. His name was Mitch Trubisky, filling in for injured starting quarterback. Benched. After 2 weeks? Benched. They're going to the third string quarterback. Now, I've already had my conversations about Trubisky, very much like this conversation. And so, not putting all the blame on him at all, but the Bears did put him into some bad habits, but also we knew what he was. And surprise, surprise, he's in a bad situation, one of the worst offenses in the league, and he still doesn't look great. So, it's just like, I don't understand. It makes my head hurt. It's like listening to the Brock Purdy conversation. Brock Purdy, well, he's got these weapons and blah 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 blah, and he like, bro, okay, yeah, put Brock Purdy on the Giants. Is he gonna do what he's doing? No. Is Mahomes going to do what he's doing with the Giants? No. Is Josh Allen? No. So why is that a conversation? I don't understand. And maybe it's just like maybe it's the what's it called, the fantasy football mindset. Maybe it's just the quarterback conversations where people just act like quarterbacks are playing one-on-one. You are going to be a product of what is around you. 99% of the players are in the NFL. And so if Justin Fields goes to a team, it's not as simple as, well, he just needed a breath of fresh air. Now, I do think that part of the mental and psychological part of the game is important, but it is a small percentage of the reason. The reason he walks to another team and looks way better or like a different player is going to be because he has a better team. And so you can't look at that and be like, whoa, we should have kept him. If we kept him, he wouldn't be doing that with us. It's the same discussion about Mahomes. Oh, the Bears passed on Mahomes. Mahomes going to a team with Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, two of the greatest pass catchers in his, probably will go down as two of the greatest pass catchers in history, is very different than him coming to the Bears. Stop it. Stop it, people. I don't get it. So, no, Justin Fields can go somewhere and be great. I hope he does. I mean, I like him as a person, and it doesn't hurt to have another good quarterback in the league. But I hope that for him. And that is zero consideration when you're talking about making a move to say, oh, well, you effed up because you traded him and he went on to play better. He's on a different team. So anyway, I'm going to let that go. This is going to make my head hurt. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I've changed my mind. I do think, and again, it's a specific situation. I get it. There's a lot of caveats, but I do think that you move on from Fields. And I understand that. Now, in reality, what will happen is that you'll probably keep Eberflus, and then you'll get a new coordinator, probably a mostly new offensive staff, and you'll take Caleb Williams, and you'll do somewhat of what I'm saying. Now, I think honestly, if you do that, we'll look better than this year, but not way better. We might even make it into the playoffs, but the team is going to have some bumps, and they're going to fire Eberflus next year and then get a new coach, and then we're going to start it all over. So I think, again, the move to me is you need to get in a new veteran. You need to get in a new head coach that could right the ship. I'm not talking about coming in with two new staffs or offense, defense, well, special teams too. I'm not talking about a whole new staff. I'm talking about a guy who could come in here, hold the good pieces together, and upgrade the bad pieces. And you bring in a quarterback, obviously, hopefully with the intention of we don't have to put this all on him. This doesn't have to be C.J. Stroud and the Raiders. And to be honest, I don't think the Texans, I don't know why I said the Raiders. And honestly, I don't think the Texans intended to do that. I think when Stroud showed that he could handle more and perform more with what they had, obviously they didn't think that they had a great group of receivers. They didn't think that the O-line, especially with the early injuries, was going to hold up the way they did. And so it might sound, I don't think they came in and was like, hey, throw 50 times. I think it just naturally developed. So hopefully nobody's thinking, yeah, we need to do that. No, you need to come in with a plan that puts pretty much, I wouldn't say like the 49ers, because then the first thing people are going to think is we don't have those players. I get that. But pretty much like those types of teams. Not really the Ravens, because the Ravens still kind of college offense to me. But more so, let's put an emphasis and resources into running the ball effectively, which we already do pretty well. Let's get even better at it. And let's work the offense off of that. Not quarterback runs and, like I said, none of that college offense, but let's work a play action game. Let's work a boot game. Let's work a quick hitter RPO game, like all those types of things. And so you build in a system that the quarterback doesn't have to do so much. And as he shows he can do more, you give him more. And you work it from that standpoint while, again, keeping the defense momentum going, hopefully getting better through free agency in the draft, and now getting to the point where the defense can contribute points and turnovers, and then you really start making this team come together and gel. So that's what I'm thinking, man. Like I said, for my money, especially with the way they lost yesterday, hey, call up some friends in the league. If I'm the GM, calling up some friends in the league, man, what you hearing about Vrabel? Because I don't think Vrabel wants to be there. The quarterback situation sucks. Derrick Henry's leaving. And once Derrick Henry leaves, they're going to have completely no offensive identity. So he might want to go. So I'll be like calling up right now, hey, what you hearing about Vrabel? And that'd be my pick. That'd be my pick because Vrabel, not only, during their success did he have coordinators leave, but he hasn't, he's not one of those, at least as far as I know, he's not one of those guys with like the patented staff where he's got this staff that's been with him the whole time. I think he's really been he's a true head coach. Obviously, he played defense, and I know he didn't have an extensive coaching career before he became a head coach. So it's not like he's steeped into being a defensive coordinator. No, I think he is a true head coach, which is why I like him so much. Not only because of his leadership among the players and relationships, but because he's a true head coach. The reason you see a lot of issues in this league today, to be honest with you, is because everybody's falling in love with this idea that the head coach is a glorified offensive coordinator. And that, I think, is just a silly way to approach it. But I said this before, whether it's a defense or offense coordinator, that doesn't translate to being a head coach. And those are two very different jobs. So I think Vrabel is one of the rare guys that's really good at just being a head coach. So that's my pick. But anyway, talk way longer than I thought I would. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. What do you think about the future? The big question, I think week 15 is over for us. So it's week 16. This is the appropriate time to have this conversation, not week 2 like some of y'all was doing. So this is the appropriate time. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. What would you do going forward with Justin Fields and with the picks? Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe. Thank you for listening. And remember, stay up and bear down.